Back to a full slate. Welcome to the Football Breakdowns Fantasy EFL Preview Show for Game Week 4. I'm Matthew South.
And I'm Ian Cooper.
Yes, welcome everybody to Game Week 4 of Fantasy EFL. We are back after a double game week. Ian, how are you doing?
Yeah, pretty fed up of the fantasy side of things. It's just not going well for me at all. But looking forward to this week, I have to say. I feel like I've sort of changed my game plan and I'm back to feeling positive. So we'll see how this week goes. How are you doing, Matt?
Yeah, I'm good. I am good. I had a decent enough game week 3, so I'm trying to ride those those points above average points I'm getting. I'm still trying to aim for climbing the leaderboards a bit more, but I can't complain too much, I'd say. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this one. Just a plain, straightforward week. I feel like we don't get too many of these across the year the way it works out. So it's nice to do these every now and again. Should we dive into how we did on game week 3 though?
Yeah, I can get started if you'd like. Might as well get the bad out of the way. I managed to get 80 points, and which is actually the game week 3 average, which is really surprising because I feel pretty down about this. Just going to highlight a few players. My goalkeeper, McGillivray, got 11 points, got the clean sheet in the first game, but didn't against Crawley. So a little disappointing, but not too bad. Luca Connell got 12 points, pretty happy with that. Alfie May, I captained him, got 16 points, so makes me feel a little bit better about that than it actually is, because essentially he only got an assist. For the low points, my midfielder Ben Perry, really excited about finding him. Was perfect for interceptions in the first couple of games, and got injured in the 12th minute of the first game and didn't play in the second game. So I got 1 point from him. Really, really wasted. Not really my fault, but it's just when your luck's not on your side, things really fall against you. As for one of my other defenders, Mads Anderson, conceded 2 goals against Bradford, which I should have seen that coming, but didn't. I still like Luton's defence, so didn't help there. 2 points, and then didn't play against Wigan when they did get a clean sheet. So denied of that clean sheet there, just 2 points from them. So yeah, quite a low week for me. How about yourself?
It was 118 points for me, so above average again. Some people really smashed it, and with the double game week, like the points are so spread out. So even that 118 being 38 above average, there were some people in the 150s, 160s that I'm equally as below. So it was one of those where it's like it's a good week, but we're still trying to get there. I think there were a few like 50-50s I had that I just made the wrong call on going into the week. I didn't pick an MK Don centre back. I really fancied Oluwo for Salford with his shooting stats, but opted against him. Kind of got talked out of that one, and he ends up scoring, getting the clean sheet, and that was like a big haul that I've kind of been on about that I've been missing. I feel like I'm so good at just getting these decent scores, but no one in my team is a really big hitter. Like if I look through this week, George Saville, decent 15-point return. Then it's Piergiani 14, but captain to 28. McGillivray 11, Connell 12. Callum Aegis, my sub point 1, 10 points for him. They're decent, but over a double, there's so many players who are hitting 20, 30 points that none of my players are above 15, and I think that's where kind of missing out. Shea Dunkley, a bit disappointed with him. Jays Cabia missed a penalty, so his points unfortunately just ends on 2 for the double game week. A lot of people had him, so it's one of those that's frustrating, but also seems a lot of people in the same boat. So it's not maybe as big a miss as it appears. But my teams were good though. Stevenage and MK Dons. Stevenage won both their games, and MK Dons won the first, drew the second. So finally we have a winner in the end of the show section for the bet, where both my teams did win their first game, which is good. So overall, some definite positives there. But I'm excited to get into this week and hopefully finally pull one of these big returns. Although I don't know if this is the week for it, but we're gonna try anyway.
Yeah, and just going into the Football Breakdown League, essentially I'm seeing a bit of a pattern here of opting for 3 defenders, especially Dimitri, Sanders, and Piergiani. Just did a quick bit of maths there, if you can, while you were talking. If you had those 3 and you captain Sanders, you actually got more points than me over the whole week. So that's pretty impressive. I'm languishing down in 18th. I believe you've climbed up to 9th place, but mainly you've overtaken the Football Breakdown account, which is just selected from the most popular players of that game week. So you must be pretty happy with that one as well.
Yeah, it's the first time we've actually beaten the account. Well, I've beaten the account in a game week, which is good. It still scored above average, but yeah, and it was massively helped out by that Jamie Reed double late on. But it's nice to beat the most selected team finally. I was wondering what to do with that this week as well. I've had a little look, and some of the players have changed around, so might stick with the most selected again because it was feeling a little samey, but looks like it could be a little interesting this week. So probably stick on that. Might need to work out what to do with the teams because the team percentages aren't changing too much. And I think last week I threw in Huddersfield and MK Dons because I didn't want to go 3 weeks in of choosing Luton and whoever the other team was and use up over half of the selections already for that thing just in case we want to do something down the line with it. So but yeah, I think it's good to beat that team finally. Hopefully we'll beat it again this week. Into game week 4 then, and it's a single game week for all teams. So we're going to run through Championship to League 2 by position, and I'm going to kick us off with the Championship goalkeeper this week. It was an interesting one. The fixtures aren't, I think in all 3 leagues the fixtures aren't amazing. Like there's no clear and obvious players from teams that you have to have in this week. I'd potentially say certainly when I was looking down anyway, there's nothing maybe that stood up too much. So Championship goalkeeper, few options. Last time I suggested Cole Rushworth, so I kind of didn't want to go for him again. I thought Danny Ward for Wrexham is at home to Sheffield Wednesday, which could be good, but then at the same time, they've been conceding goals, Wrexham, so didn't want them in. Similar with Allsop at Birmingham. So instead I've landed on Evil Panda for Hull City. He kept a clean sheet on opening day, did concede twice last weekend to Oxford, but it was a bit of like a chaotic game, and I'm wondering if their game this weekend against Blackburn is going to be more like the mould of opening day, except maybe with Hull edging it as well with them being at home. He's made 3.5 saves per 90, so he's also good for a bonus point on average, which we'll take. It's not necessarily what I'm always looking for. It's definitely nice to have. It's just I'm kind of usually trying to focus on a clean sheet, but I thought that was hard to come by. But I do think there's definitely an angle for the clean sheet here because Blackburn Rovers have scored just once in their opening 2 games, and they've taken just 14 shots as well. That's the lowest shot tally in the Championship. Their goal was a really good goal by Cantwell, but it's one of those kind of it was a long range, low XG goal from headed out from a corner. He's volleyed it back in, really nice goal, but it's not something they're going to do every week. So no surprise that they actually have the lowest XG as well across those 2 games. So I think with Blackburn looking a little bit blunt going forward, and Hull certainly showing us on opening day that they can defend pretty well, and then last week that they can attack, if they pull the 2 together, I think we could be on for a good clean sheet here. For Evil Panda.
Yeah, nice. I've gone for quite a similar sort of thought process with Championship defenders. I've gone for Ben Cabango. Much the same as last year. They give up quite a low XG. So in their first 2 games, they gave away 0.35 away to Middlesbrough and 0.58 at home to Sheffield United. It's really the ground duels for Cabango, which are really impressive, winning 76.9% of these duels. And that's reflected in EFL Fantasy, claiming 3 bonus points for tackles and 4 bonus points for clearances. On the other side of things, their opponents, Watford, have only played 1 game away from home this season and were goalless in that game against Charlton. And interestingly, their XG is pretty mid-table. Like they're sitting in 13th at 2.8 goals. However, it's the shots on target per match that worry me at only 2.5, which would put them 20th. So if they're going to have a low amount of quality shots on target against a really stubborn defence, I'm quite fancying a clean sheet here for Cabango.
Yeah, yeah. Did have a look at Swansea's stats. Certainly look like their two games so far have been fairly low with both ends of the pitch. So yeah, I think taking a defender there is quite smart into midfield. And yeah, this pick is one that I'm interested, excited about, but also might be coming from the fact that we've had a low pool of data so far. It's Isaac Price for West Brom. No surprise, he's very well picked at the moment with him having 3 goals in his 2 games. He's taken 7 shots with 5 on target in those games as well. So yeah, we're taking someone who scored 1 goal from January onwards and now has 3 goals in 2 games, which I'm conscious about. Getting too ahead of myself on this one, but the shot stats are kind of backing him up. And West Brom are at home to Portsmouth, and Portsmouth have conceded 29 shots in their 2 games so far. So only 4 teams have conceded more than them. West Brom do look quite good going forward. Interestingly, in the week as well, Price got the assist in the EFL Cup. So of the 5 goals West Brom have scored in all competitions, only one of them has not involved Price himself. He also has an interception too in 2 games, but last season he had 0.94 per 90 in the championship. So I think we could be good for those interception numbers to come in, this week as well. I don't think they're definitely not out of the question with a 0.94 per 90 stat. He's playing at the number 10 role. It's exciting. I think he's going to get opportunities. He's been their best player so far, and when you've got the other talent around him, like not like championship teams can really focus on him too much. It does remind me a little maybe of like obviously kind of different-ish players, but like Finn Azaz for Middlesbrough last year, where he had that few months signing from them in January the season before, and then come the summer just kind of clicked. He was already taking shots and things like that, but then it just started coming together for him. So Price could be on that trajectory too.
Funny enough, I was literally just about to say about the comparison to Finazaz. It does remind me of that. If anything, the only difference is with West Brom having a new manager, maybe playing a slightly different role, which actually benefits Price as well. Maybe these performances becoming more repeatable. So I definitely don't see that as a bad thing at all. I'm going to go to the championship forward, and I'm sure you could look at this pick and base my logic on just a really high scoring total from his last game, but I'm going to go for Ollie McBurney. And I want to take advantage of McBurney before he becomes a popular pick, including the Carabao first round. McBurney has scored 2 goals and has 2 assists in his last 2 games. Having a creative edge with McBurney's hold at play is a positive for me for scoring points, and I'm leaning quite heavily on Gelhardt on putting a performance here where McBurney can benefit from this. Blackburn have conceded the 8th highest XG over the opening 2 games. I'm not really using that as a negative against Blackburn, but I do think this helps McBurney's cause.
Yeah, interesting both ends of the pitch, and we've both gone for Hull against Blackburn for kind of reasons that almost well, I guess my reasons are more anti-Blackburn and your reasons are more pro Hull, which is an interesting contrast on those two there. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I definitely can see the logic in that.
Right, and shall we move on to the League One picks? And I'll kick us off with the goalkeeper. I'm going to go for Sam Walker of Bradford. And with Bradford having adjusted to League One very well, being undefeated so far this season, and they have included strong defensive performances here. I know Bradford have only kept 1 clean sheet, but just conceding 1 goal against Luton and then Stockport away shouldn't be overlooked. Also, only conceding 3 goals to an XG faced of 3.4 is pretty solid for Sam Walker, I'd say. And Bradford's opponents, Peterborough, play their part in this selection, being goalless in their last 3 league games, and their only goal this season coming from the penalty spot in their opening game.
Yeah, do like that pick. Really like the look of Bradford overall this week, but we'll get onto that later. Into the fence, and it's Jason Kerr for Wigan that I am looking at. Kerr's been really solid this season, averaging 10.5 clearances per 90, and also 2 blocks and 1.75 tackles. So the average is good enough for three plus bonus points, and if you want to do some rounding in there, we'd be edging to 4 and 5 potentially. It's just the one clean sheet for Wigan so far, and it came at home, but they've had like two tough away trips already so far to Orient and Lincoln, and now they are away to a Rotherham side who didn't play in midweek. So it'd be interesting to see if they're ready for it. But a lot of this pick does come from Rotherham just looking pretty poor going forward. They've averaged just 6 shots per game, which is the lowest in the league. They also are going to be without Sam Nombe, who's I think he's got a hamstring injury. He's going to be out for a few months, and he's the only player who scored for them so far this season. They blanked away at Salford in the League Cup as well, so as well as their last two league games. I just think there's a lot going for Wigan to going and getting a result here, and certainly just keeping Rotherham at bay. Rotherham, I was almost thinking with Nombe there'd be enough of a threat to get the defensive bonus points up at the very least. But even now with no Nombe, I'm like, we could just be taking a clean sheet and anything extra that comes our way. Kerr also has had 4 shots and scored once, so he is a threat in the other box too. That's always a nicety. It's certainly if this game, ends up being heavy Wigan football, we could definitely pick up some points there if they're getting corners and Kerr's going forward. So I do like the look of Jason Kerr for Wigan this week.
And of course, he plays in the middle of the back three, which is the way to my heart. So I'm always going to back that pick as well. I'm going to go into the midfield pick now, and I'm going to go for Ollie Norwood. Certainly not surprising. He scores a very consistent points this season, with 6 being Norwood's lowest return, averaging 2 interceptions, over 1 key pass, and 0.5 assists per 90. Explains why I feel this is quite an important but popular selection as well. Burton are the opponents who Stockport are hosting, and it's a small data sample, but in Burton's only away game, they conceded 3 goals. So I'm hoping for plenty attacking opportunities, and would fancy Norwood to pick up another assist or hopefully open his goal tally for the season. I'm not sure if he's on penalties this year, but I've got a feeling he might be.
Yeah, I don't think they've had one yet, so but it'd be surprising if he wasn't anyway. Yeah, I was actually wondering, even when I was looking at the forward, if there was a way to get a Stockport player in, and I think Norwood in midfield is probably the way to do that with their forward line kind of not quite settling just yet. They've been a bit of a weird team, but I do like the Norwood pick. The defensive issues they're having doesn't really impact him, in terms of points, which is always a good thing. Up front, and I'm kind of sticking to a theme that I've been going for recently, which is trying to land a striker who whose numbers look good but whose goals aren't quite there yet. Had Stephen Humphreys, was like a week early on that one. I suggested Josh March last week. He ended up scoring, had a really good week, so kind of nailed that one last time. Unfortunately, wasn't in my team because of my sub-point pick. But so this time I'm hoping to do it again. And this guy has scored, but just the one goal. It's Aaron Connolly for Leyton Orient. He's taken 18 shots so far this season, scoring just once. But those numbers are just don't make any sense to me. So I feel like I have to suggest him here. They're away to Mansfield, which is a tricky-ish fixture, but Orient have been playing well. 7 points from their last 3 games, and they won away in midweek. In that game itself, Aaron Connolly had 3 shots on target, so he's picking up the bonus points there too. And whilst Mansfield have been solid, they have conceded 5 goals already, so I don't think they're indestructible at the back. I definitely think that Leyton Orient are good enough to create chances here, and it really is a lot about that. The 18 shots that Connolly himself has taken. He's playing down the middle. You've got Cromer and O'Neill playing really well either side of him. I just think the goals for Connolly are going to start coming eventually. I'm kind of backing it to happen now. It's certainly a player that I think, with those numbers, if they don't come now, they'll come soon. So I'm going for it this week, but I'm very much conscious that this could be like Humphreys, where I'm a week early on it or something. But yeah, no, I do like the look of him though.
Yeah, definitely a busybody. You do worry sometimes, as he sort of, especially with his press, and we don't really have a way of seeing those in fantasy points just yet, which is a shame because I feel like that would make him and especially Humphrey's a much more popular choice. But if he's having that many shots, then it's certainly not a negative on that side of things.
Exactly, exactly. You have to shoot to score, and I much prefer my players to shoot a lot, so more chances of scoring that way. Into League Two then, and well, speaking of shooting, I'm looking at, as usual, for a goalkeeper pick for the opposite teams that don't really shoot, or teams that concede very few shots, and I'm kind of I was a bit stuck, and I'm sorry to do this, but I'm going to double down on Ian's pick last week because I still think it's the best option. Yeah, we're going back to Craig McGillivray for MK Dons. This again, the fiction in League Two I thought were interesting, but really this one here just kind of stands out as the best bet for a clean sheet in my opinion. And as always, that's why I'm after in a goalkeeper. So let's take MK Dons. They concede just 8.25 shots per 90 with 2.25 on target. Both of those are the second fewest in the league. Newport County are their opponents. They take just 9 shots per 90 with just 2.25 on target. The 9 shots per 90 is the fifth fewest in the league. The 2.25 on target is the second fewest in the league. So you've got one of the best defences against one of the worst attacks in the league. That's exactly what I was looking for. McGillivray's the one who fits the bill. Sorry to double down on it, but I generally, like we've said before, I'm not going to suggest, if there is just such a standout pick, I'm not going to try and maybe fit someone else in there. I just want to give you guys who I think is the best option, and I think McGillivray is the best option again.
No, I knew you didn't have anywhere really to go with goalkeepers, which is why I went somewhere else for my defender pick. It's really difficult to look past MK Dons, but I think I have someone here, and I've gone for Reece Hutchinson for Crew. It's he has a high total score, and it's certainly inflated by the 2 goals that he's already scored this season. But I want to take advantage of Crew's defensive record, but with the boost of an attacking output. Hence why I've opted for Hutchinson over a fantasy favourite, Dimitri. That's without talking about the 9 chances that he's created at left back as well, which I feel will see some fruition when looking at Crew's attacking options, especially. Their opponents, Gillingham, have started the season well with a high goal tally. But looking into the underlying data, I don't see it as a repeatable stat. Remembering that obviously Hutchinson, I've talked about him as an attacking output, but essentially we want the clean sheet points here. So with Gillingham, they have scored 1.8 goals per 90, so sounds quite scary. But that is inflated by their 4-1 win against Chesterfield. But across the season, they only averaged 2.5 shots on target per 90, which places them 20th in League Two. So whilst they are very clinical at the minute, we've always seen that being clinical isn't repeatable unless you're at such a skill level where you're a Premier League striker, for instance, and it only takes you a small amount of, you don't need a high amount of shots to score. In League Two, I just don't see that being such a pattern. So having such few shots on target does worry me for Gillingham. So I'm going for Reece Hutchinson here.
Yeah, I think it's a nice pick. I think Lee Bell teams, well, I mean Lee Bell teams being Crew. I think when Crew have been good, it's their wing back threat as well that has been very important. Like last season, they had Conway on loan on the left hand side. The season before, they had Rio Adebisi, and he went up to Peterborough. He scored, I think, looking here, 4 goals the season before. So just having that threat from wing back has always been important for Bell and for Crew. And yeah, if Hutchinson's stepping into those shoes, then I think it's good to get on board while maybe he's a little bit under the radar, or definitely someone who could be a differential to Dimitri for sure. Into midfield then, and yeah, I'm going back to an old favourite of ours who we picked on week 1 together as our sub point pick. It's Kieran Green for Grimsby. I did not. It wasn't. I was trying not to pick him. It was. I genuinely had a lot of midfield options, but I kept just coming back to this one. In typical fashion for us, the week that we've picked him, he scored 5 points, and he's outscored that every week since. He's no longer a sub point pick. I think he's up to 0.6 or 7 now, which is about in line of what you'd expect to see. I'd actually expect him to be around 1% or more because he's just such an all-round midfielder. So far this season, he's got a goal, 3 assists, he's made 8 key passes, he's taken 8 shots as well. He's got that license to get a bit more forward this season. I know he did get like 7 goals last year. It feels like this year he feels even more involved, I guess, which is interesting. Especially last year, he had 0.76 interceptions per 90, and this year he is well below that with just one interception. But it's another side of his game that we could earn points from. So I do like the look of Green as an overall player. They face Accrington Stanley away from home. Accrington, they've just lost Ben Woods. Their start's been a bit so-so. They didn't play in midweek. Their game was cancelled because of Tranmere playing the EFL Cup again. And yeah, like their defensive stats are pretty average. On the ball, they're pretty average. It's kind of what we'd want for our midfielder who could pick up interceptions and then, you know, add that attacking input on the edge of the box. So yeah, Kieran Green for me.
Lovely. Certainly not a player that I'm going to go against. I've wanted to get him into my team, especially this week as well. I think it's just being stung from the first week. It's kind of put me off, and there is a lot of options in midfield, but certainly not a bad one to use. And going into the forward pick, I just don't feel like there's too many outstanding options for forwards in League Two just yet. So I'm going to use last season to help me factor this pick, and I'm siding with Armando Dobra. Importantly, Dobra has 2 goals and 1 assist already, with one of the goals and the assist coming away from home, which Chesterfield find themselves this week playing Harrogate. Interestingly, his per 90 stats are actually really promising as well. He does average over 4 touches in the opposition box and averages 2.6 shots per 90 as well. So like he is active. There's just across the board in League Two, I just don't find anyone that's having tons of chances just yet. There's a lot of strikers that are getting touches in the box for say, but they're more laying it off to wingers or attacking midfielders to have shots. I'm not seeing anyone being greedy enough just yet. So I need to see that the next couple of weeks. But going back to Dobra and Chesterfield, their record against Harrogate last season was poor, but I do see this game going a little differently. Importantly, Harrogate have conceded 6.9 XG so far, which is the 4th highest in the league and follows a really similar pattern to last season as well. So I'm hoping that Dobra can take advantage of this week.
Yeah, no, I do like Dobra definitely. The Chesterfield forward line is an exciting one. I think they'll always have opportunities. So yeah, I definitely understand the logic behind that, and I do kind of I do definitely agree with what you were saying there too with the shots. I think that's certainly interesting that there's a lot of players throughout the leagues who have had a high number of shots, but in League Two, I think you're looking at Josh March being top of that list at the moment, and that's kind of what we got on last week for him to break that duct, and then below that it's Michael Cheek, who we all know about, and then I'm actually looking here below that you've got actually Charles Vernon for Grimsby, who certainly, I mean, has a goal, but again we're looking at it's not exactly like we're looking at big high shot numbers per game. We're now just getting into pretty standard territory there. So yeah, hopefully Dobra can provide something different. Shall we move into our sub point picks for the week?
Yeah, go for it. I'll let you start this week.
Okay, I'm hoping I'm going to say after the last few weeks where you've said someone who's been on my radar or the same person as me. I'm hoping. Well, I don't know if I'm hoping we've gone completely different. It's always fun to be on the same wavelength, but it'd be nice to just go completely polar opposites, I guess. I am taking, after a bit of consideration, I'm gonna take Ben Woodburn for Salford City, who gets in at 0.1%. He's off the back of a really good double game week for Salford. He's had a goal, an assist, 3 interceptions, 4 key passes, 2 shots on target from 4 shots overall this season. But I think his points tally's kind of been a bit swayed from the first 2 weeks, and they were on a really small sample size. But week 1 he missed a penalty, and game week 2 he didn't start, got a yellow card off the bench and got 0 points. So since then his average is all the way up to 5.3, which is pretty good. Like when we're considering week 1 and week 2 were effectively just terrible game weeks for him, to have a really really solid bounce back after that is good. I think he's probably coming in under the radar if you're sorting by average or overall points, but certainly he's off the back of a 20-point game week with 14 points at home to Accrington last week. He faces a Walsall side as well, who like maybe on paper like have been all right, but have some pretty interesting, I guess, numbers under the hood. They actually can see quite a high amount of shots. They take quite a low amount of shots. Like this is a game that even away from home, Salford would probably back themselves like they did when they went to Notts County and won 2-1. I probably back Salford to go and win at Walsall as well in a similar vein. And Woodburn has been pretty key to their attack and overall play, certainly in the last two games. So I'm trying to get on that. He's I've written something here that he fills the Adelakan role of last season, where I would pick Adelakan a lot, and it's not positionally, it's just the on his day is too good for League Two, and I
Yeah,
think that's what Woodburn is going to fit into as well. So if I can get someone who's too good for League Two at 0.1% while he's playing well, I'm gonna take it. So Ben Woodburn is my sub point pick.
yeah, and that definitely feels like a pick where you need to take him now while he's at 0.1%, because especially like if we see this pattern carrying on, we're just not going to be able to use him anymore this
Yeah,
season.
he's almost got that as well, that like name value that
That's
could
what I kind of
carry a
mean.
lot. Yeah,
There's
yeah.
you're gonna know the name, maybe not his career path or anything, but you're gonna see the name eventually in League Two. And you think, well, that just isn't right. It, I think he's there on merit, if that's fair to say, but this season's definitely his chance to show that he is above the level. I'm going to go for my 0.1 pick now, and I'm going to scrap where I mentioned I'm going to try and go safe this week to get some points. And this is a big risk, as this player only has one start in the league, and I'm basing my information this week on that. But I'm going to go for Eamon Benarous of Plymouth Argyle. He is a midfielder playing left back, so I don't have to worry about missing out on clean sheet points or conceding 2+ goals, which has happened multiple times two times this season already for Plymouth Argyle. He clocked 6 interceptions against Leyton Orient, which really caught my interest. He scored 14 points in that game. That's why it's a big risk. I'm not expecting that sort of output this week. I think that's far too high of a reach. But just the fact, when I look at his stats this season, Benarous has won 100% of his tackles attempted and has won 12.9 of his ground duels. And if some of them are seen as interceptions, then that's just a great starting point. On top of that, he has claimed 1 assist in the League Cup as well, so has that creative edge to him, and does actually have a fair amount of underlying data. I'm not going to go through it because there's no point talking about his overall tally, and his per 90 is essentially just based off of 190 minutes, because his other 2 appearances have come off the bench in the last 5 minutes. But just an interesting pick when I saw that it's an out of position player, so I don't have to worry about the clean sheets, but is winning the ball so much to get those interceptions. I think it's a nice way to go for this week.
Yeah, I think that's a cool pick. I think getting someone in who's maybe just got their way into the starting lineup early, off the back of a good week, is certainly not a bad angle for this section. Yeah, like you say, I guess it's the small data size and where he's gonna, I guess where he's gonna play. I still expect him to play left back this weekend. But yeah, it's nice to get that kind of interception gamble from left back, kind of how I got the Pinnock one a few weeks ago against
Yeah.
Barnet, where you can just get someone intercepting because they're playing in that position, and then the actual defensive stats, or defensive risks, sorry, are gone because it's a midfielder, so we don't have to worry about that. Very, very nice. Yeah, I was intrigued at first when you said 1 start, because another player who was on my radar was Tyler Walton. Similarly, just because he counts as the midfielder, plays up front,
I looked at
plays
Walton.
up,
I looked at
yeah,
Walton.
plays up front for Accrington. I thought I almost went for him myself, and then kind of talked myself out of it. And then when you when you said that, I thought you might be going for him too. So yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on Walton this week as well to see how he does, because that could be a potential option, just given that he's the only player who's scored for Accrington so far this season. But yeah, very nice, very nice. Do you want to walk me through what your team's looking like then right now?
Yeah, sure. So in goal, I've got Sam Walker, and I have a defensive two of Ben Cabango and Reece Hutchinson. I've gone for a midfield three of Ollie Norwoods, Eamon Benarouz, and Isaac Price. And up front, I have Ollie McBurney.
Yeah, very, very nice. I'm currently 2-3-1. Haven't fully decided yet if I'm going to stick with this. I have Craig McGillivray in goal, doubling him up with Sanders in defence. I do like that MK Dons Newport matchup. I also have Jack Tucker for Colchester. His defensive stats are pretty good. Barrow, not that good. Colchester, also not that good at the moment, but maybe just trying to get them, as we said I think we said before we started recording, trying to get a team or try and back a team to be good in the end. In midfield, yep, Isaac Price, Ben Woodburn, and I also have Victor Torp for Coventry. I like that
Yeah.
game against QPR. Kind of wanted to get someone in, and Torp is someone who certainly catches my eye with some of his stats. Up front at the moment, I have Jay Stansfield for Birmingham. I think they're going to be far too good for Oxford, but yeah, it's trying to work out which one I want. I kind of want Kyogo as well, and then it's working out who's going to play the full 90. So I haven't fully decided there. But yeah, that's how our teams look. And do follow us on the socials. We're on X at FBBD Pod. We're on Bluesky at Football Breakdown. Yeah, if we do update our teams, we'll have the full lineups. Well, even if we don't, we'll have our full lineups out before the weekend kicks off. There is a game tomorrow night on Friday, depending on when you're actually listening to this. But yeah, there is a Friday night game between Derby and Bristol City, but I don't think any of us have any or are pondering any Derby or Bristol City players. So if not, we'll have our lineups out Saturday morning. But just for your awareness. So into the final part of the show then, which is our teams to win, and then as always, myself and Ian going to have a £5 bet on both our teams to win and see if we have a little head-to-head against each other through the season. My two teams won last week, so finally a win this season. I'm in the green, which is nice, but it was a very small win. So yeah, I'll kick us off with our two teams to
Sure.
win, I think, because I feel like I always end up asking you to you to do it. The first team I'm taking is Bradford. Kind of as you mentioned with Walker in goal, I do like this matchup. I don't think Peterborough are very good. I think they're having a bit of a turbulent period on and off the pitch. The fans aren't too happy with the squad. The money not being spent, I should say, or where it's being spent. You know, their squad certainly looks to be lacking that leadership and League One experience, and all the games so far they just haven't looked really ready for the other teams in the league. Whilst Bradford, meanwhile, have been brilliant, and their win over Stockport in midweek felt like, it felt merited. It felt like it was coming. Certainly going into that game, like you had Bradford who are playing like some pretty almost like, well, attacking football. They're taking lots of shots, whereas Stockport have almost found themselves being terrible the moment they take the lead. Like they just like take their foot off the gas at 1-0. So when that did go to 1-0, it did seem to be playing into that narrative that Bradford could go and win it, and they did. So yeah, they're certainly a side who won't be out of it if they concede first. I want the away points too, and yeah, I really like this matchup we're getting in game week 4. The second team for me is Chesterfield away at Harrogate. I like that matchup again. I think I know Chesterfield off the back of a pretty heavy loss against Gillingham, but it is one of those where it just feels like everything just went in for Gillingham. Like, I'm not saying Chesterfield were good, but it certainly wasn't like, it was just a bit of a weird game where if you look at even if you look at the overall stats, we're just 4 games in and Gillingham is still one of the lowest shot takers in the league. So the fact they had 4 goals in the game is a bit bizarre. Chesterfield's other away win saw them pick up the full 11 points, 2-0 win. So yeah, I'm backing them to do that again against a Harrogate team that I think they're going to be much better than.
No, nice. I'm going for double championship this week. It sounds a bit silly just because such a lack of data pool. It might actually be more sensible to focus on League One, League Two. I've kind of um, not really looked at points as such, but I'm weighing it more for the bet. The first game I have looked into it is Hull. I'm going to go for Hull against Blackburn for the reasons discussed, with you going for their goalkeeper, with me looking at suggesting their forward. I think we spoke about sort of both angles of why I fancy Hull over Blackburn. So, yeah, that's one of my picks. The other pick is actually Ipswich. They're playing Preston away from home. Preston have started well. Like, they do have goals in their side. We're still kind of waiting for Ipswich to spark this season, especially on the pitch. I want to see sort of a more complete performance, but I just think that squad's so good. I would really struggle to pick a player from their team to suggest that I'd want to put in my team at the minute. But as a team overall, I kind of want to take advantage of Ipswich playing quite a poor team on paper. So yeah, I'm going for Ipswich and Hull City.
Yeah, I like that. I think maybe trying to get Ipswich, on. We don't think they can be as bad as they. Well, I'm not saying they've actually been overall bad, but maybe that first win's going to come for them sooner or later. So yeah, I think that's a good angle to go with. And yeah, I do think Hull should be too good for Blackburn, which is decent. Yeah, I think for myself it's like players fancying a lot of players. My players are playing at home, but yeah, this week I think with a single game week, I'm kind of banking on those away wins that don't really see a 4-0 coming anywhere. Certainly hard to predict, so I'm gonna stick with that. Did forget to mention as well, the £5 for me returns £18.26.
Oh, yep, sorry. And my £5 stake returns me £21.91.
Lovely, lovely. And that brings us to the end of Game Week 4's preview show. Thank you everyone for listening. And as mentioned, do follow us on the socials. You can also join our fantasy league. All the links will be in the comments, and as Ian's mentioned before, the winner of the fantasy league is going to receive a personalized mug from Ian himself. So you do have that to look forward to should you so wish.
Exactly.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. As always, yeah, we do appreciate all the viewers, and yeah, if anyone has any feedback, definitely throw it our way. Let us know your teams as well in the comments. Thanks again. Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, Matthew.
And take it easy.